And as you look at this, good shouts there. Made in heaven. They don't have Red Dragon in this lobby day, so it will be uncontested at the wall. But for contests, look down south, right? Coastal camp. Team Portugal will likely get Coastal to themselves. I'd imagine 202 is just going to go ahead and straight take Echo, but just we will see some congestion there. Pest Control taking on Vex at devastated Coast. Now, we did see a lot of those historical zones that favored Echo HQ, but that was back when season 19 at the start of the split. Only since then we've seen one pull Echo. Now going through Legend Select, we likely won't see too many change ups. I have been witnessing maybe one team kind of trying to play Catalyst on Storm Point, but still, you know, she's pretty much, I don't want to say like dead and gone, but kind of in comp at least.
No, I don't know if anybody's like 100% ever fully gone. How long was Lifeline gone for?
你不用睡了吗？不用。我为了看 LGS 还特别来这里。对，我们的风暴脸开打了。等一下。OK， 我们的 LGS 第4场风暴脸。Oh my god.
To not have to have a set meta. They can kind of try things differently, tweak it, whether that's a different perk tree or a different legend in the trio edition than what we've seen so far. On the day, we've seen Fuse get brought out. We've seen Maggie get brought out. We see a lot more crypto in EMEA than we do maybe.
怎么有一个跑到野区来了啊？这会这样跳的吗？我以前在比赛上面有遇过，是因为资源可能会不够。看一下，2队藏地，1队宙斯，Lions 在天线，不是天线那个比赛在。哎呦，你的风暴猎手是群中央啊，所以他们 Infinity 很舒服哎。对，当然说学霸。要可以的话，可以帮我报个台啊。可以，你心与我同在。人不在，心可以在，是不是？TSM 跳在狗园里面哦。虽然说你要天希大贼，好啊，可以躺。我也想躺的话，可以躺下来。是。谁在打架？这是狂你们切一下。
I think it was yesterday when we saw them struggle a little bit against 07 in the push through that area, but now they don't have to worry about them, so maybe it'll help them at least be able to clear out that space. They will have to figure out their loot situation as we check in on a hard decky.
Just hard
a little
decky
bit of loot, just hanging out.
Just hard decky things. I love that Noises said that because I was looking towards the legend select. I still think Hardeki might have been the only one to Lifeline. We've seen Matafe kind of dabble with Lifeline on Stormpoint, but I'm pretty sure they went the route of Caustic. Now moving towards them, a team that has historically had relatively consistent performances, but today really hasn't been their strongest start. Still trying to break into the top 10. But I will say here, Lauren, with LCDF kind of kill sponging the lobby.
希尔跟那个催化器那些都不太行，所以现在阵容乱七八糟。我那个时候在打的时候，基本上就是催化器帮加希尔，那个时候是标配。
Continuing on in the competition or to just barely missing out on it. So there's still an opportunity here for what, like 17th through 22nd really to do anything based off
那个狗子还是我是有抓到，我是没抓到。
Checking in with Navi, seeing what they've got going on for a little bit of a rotation. We're seeing a lot of these teams starting to cluster up and trying to find a little bit of safe space. Everybody really
这是 TSM 另外一队吗？哦 ，TSM Phoenix。
Stormcatcher knowing that it's going to be high priority. These Watson fences will come in clutch for a lot of the teams that do have a Watson in the trio, though.
哦哇！我第一次知道 TSM 有2队。我想说，怎么 TS 挂 TSM， 然后那个 ID 都不认识，大小。
TSM Phoenix kind of holding on with white shields, and you made good call outs. We've got Infinite, that land Stormcatcher. They still were able to get on to at least those blue Evos. Emit moves in. Cold Alliance dropping down, still near a little bit by Thunderwatch, and Made in Heaven having a really solid day showing. Dropping in, not going for top of Stormcatcher, dropping down.
对他们这波很赌命的，说实在，这个只要放到一个，他们就有可能会被推。但是说他们好像没地方去，我感觉左边怎么走 ？TSM 整个电网，笑死！白霞啊，放倒了啊！发生什么事情啊？昨天打一个，我还处决，很嘲讽。这我知道是他是要回家。
Yeah, so that happened. I think anytime I say someone lands off a rotation, they're pretty healthy.
那刚推下那一组应该是没有机会再回去。对，要放掉。这没地方拉服。
Teams over there, and for go next, looking for some positioning, and they thought, Omit's building looks really nice. Tolkien already down, and a frag grenade's gonna force Kaishi out, but Light do have all members up, and it's just a matter of time before they can fight through the fire and flames to kind of finish off what they started.
Love that reference. Just
是倒的吗？
that's great reference.
我们还是2个活人哎，想不想？要不要？1-8？要不要？哇！有没有垒？直接灌他！灌他！可以再来吗？哇！ 我们捕手这个圈，说实在就很难打，因为决赛圈基本上踩上面的人基本上就赢了，除非你要去积极的推进，把上面人赶下来，那才有机会可以。如果是周遭的，基本上第一排没进圈，基本上在后面基本上全部进来。我讲这么多，基本上。可是这点还蛮恶心的，因为能站的点就那几个。
You have completely cleared out my building for me. So as that zone pool comes in, Omit really benefiting from that. But you keep your eyes on Aftermath and Cold, right? Just on the outskirts, holding kind of near that mountaintop. We want to clear out the outer path for Na'Vi that are really outside the top 10 right now. Just give Kinda a wingman at this point and send him off to see what happens. We saw when Hardeki used it. It was pretty nice. We just need one for Kinda, all right?
Now we get a little bit of a view here in LCDF right above EXO, who they're looking down upon trying to deal some damage. As I say that we came in.
Jesus Christ, man! 瀑布倒一是不是？我们这边下去，他们好像也不用缴技能就可以把自己吃掉，说实在的。只要狗子少，天际线大家甚至都不用叫，他们就可以把这组喝掉。果然，直接追就好了。好像有一个人啊。再见了，你挡住你要没分。有没有机会？有机会吗？没有了。不可能跑掉的啊！你们在门口那个毒冠是谁？
It's gonna be Psychop that kind of opens it up. Sure, they've done a lot of damage, but we're claiming Thorfinn for this point.
他跑掉了，他没有被淘汰，笑死。所以我觉得他应该要狗人先跟蟑螂没关系。你们不觉得他们走得掉？来看一下我们 Alliance 怎么吃掉。Alliance 他们好像哦，他踩到头上。他们这样包的话，他们。有点情况有点尴尬，因为 他要先等上面的队先输出完，他才能打一波出来，因为他不能一个人以身试险去打3个人。6岁5分钟是饿到醒，刚好吃东西，看有觉得是不是完美？哇！是不会到被反打，但是有点尴尬，因为他侧面压力很重。在风暴捕手的圈的状况下呢，这个坡基本上是不太能踩的，因为大家枪线都夹得到。现在压力来到我们Aila下面那一组，够打的啊！
Pushing up here, trying to go for a little bit of a chase. Oirain maybe seeing if he could clear out some of 202, but not wanting to push it too aggressively, knowing how split the crew is, but also not wanting to waste this ultimate. In the end, they end up backing off, at least holding out this area for now.
Yeah, it's tough, right? I really don't want to see them push into Spider's choke. So I want them to maintain their ground. They've done enough. Yes, you want those eliminations, but at that point, giving up the position that you're currently holding isn't necessarily worth it because there's only so many ways that 202 can get back into zone, but doubling down here, going for that Evo cash will at least allow 202 to go up.
现在最强，现在职业赛最强的是不是原美？也没有说最强吧，主要是他的技能是必要的。除了是看很普秒之外，过点很重要。也没有到最强吧，就是中规中矩啊，就是大家要什么角色就扮演什么角色啊。现在尴尬的点就是因为催化剂跟希尔都被削弱了，所以现在大家阵容都改向狗食跟生命线。邦家是因为也没被削什么，所以就照旧，因为他的烟也不会去削什么。他会削的永远只是他的大招而已。虽然说削大招也是削他的那个冷却时间，其实也没有到很那个。反正大家都是吃书的，所以也不用到说全部等完的。We've seen just how nice it can be to stabilize in fights and keep yourself in full health, but the hunt, it comes through and we swing. Rakafaka's the first one to fall and we're looking for... Motherfucker 还是说什么？哦，fucker。哎，这波推的有点丑哎，说实在的，他们被一个烟，哇，熬倒下来了，闻到肉的味道了。这个不下来吃不行啊！免费人头谁不要？你是不是？看到那个粉红色预饭，你说谁是预饭团？好，谁是预饭团啊？什么意思？中间那颗预饭团在努力的看 A， 我觉得。找回那个以前比赛那个感觉。哎，踩这里压力说实在真的很大，因为四面八方都会来推你，所以我如果说是比赛的话，比赛跟那个正常在打的时候，我都不会踩那个，我都一定会去抢楼梯。就是看到圈基本上要刮哪里，怎么讲？就是第一圈要刮的时候，大概知道最后一圈在哪里嘛，就是去抢那个楼梯。但主在这个位置现在太可怕，基本上现在哪币顾好的话，其实他们不会输。下面下坡的这几组是有一点惨。他们就算说上去了之后，他们把哪币推掉，他们也会遭到楼梯。我不知道楼梯现在有没有人，反正就是楼梯跟上面那边两边夹击这样。反正就是很尴尬的位置啊，只能说。那他们现在准备交一波大小，把下面全吃了。我们想把他们逼上来。逼上来之后，就刚好就可以把下面的隐患全部清掉。楼梯好像左右各一组，那我是觉得 不对啊，左右各一组的话，哪边不可能踩那里啊，所以应该是没有人。所以说他们一波推进的话是有机会的。哪边怎么下来啊？所以另外一组死了吗？哪边其实不需要下来。如果说另外一组没死的情况下，他不需要下来，他们会不会假解？可是哪边这边哦，那推赢了，那他们要回去的啊 ，XO 还活着。XO 他们现在会抢，如果他们现在再不回防的话，那虽然他们现在才2个人，但是他们现在在一个绕单的同伴的情况下呢，其实这样是有点冒险。那哪边真的下去太久了。
He'll typically anchor back, and that Kraber is gonna work to their favor.
就是看 XO 跟 Navi 谁能抢到那个楼梯，楼梯好像都有人啊，两边都有人，对，没有错。你看啊，然后 CDF 也在了，然后另外一边不知道是哪一队。可是现在大家在想的是要怎么过风暴捕手右下角那个方区，因为怎么讲，它那个有一个大裸位嘛，所以大家都很难过。你如果不是在上面架枪的话，其实大家都会很难受。可是上面的其实很难走，因为他们其实下面没地方可以走，他们下面全都是大裸位。哇，我这个 TS 大家讲到猴子是不是啊？XO 他们成功起飞了，那他们如果抢到石头去的话，他们会被莱恩斯打爆哎。像哪币这个位置的话，还能再活一下，他们至少能先等后面的人全部进线，然后全部收掉之后，他们再看是要扛上面的，还是完了。刚讲完，他们可能会出事，上面的有压力，下面也有压力，他们两边都有隐患，他们要死了，他们绝对要死。没死，只是他们的压力现在很大。反正现在是 XO 没有什么压力耶，搞毛啊！有莱恩斯不是在他头上，这个圈也太直了，这个圈也太丑了吧！其实我告诉你，蛮常说这个圈的，不管是在排位还是在比赛，其实都蛮常说这个圈的，也没有到很丑，其实算是一个蛮中规中矩的一个圈。因为每次说到这边的话，大家都很难打，因为怎么讲，你说到这边的话，不能说到左边防区还是右边防区，只要不是说在风暴捕手正中间的话，所有人都要过点，然后过点的时候，下面绝对会打成一票。所以大家都会很难受的。
Cold just kind of anchoring down as we got a really good look at where the teams were laying. LCDF still underneath and Navi go under.
除非你们队伍真的是很强，可以一直推，不然是真的不太行。队伍遇到真的会吐血，不至于到吐血的，处理的好的话，因为其实你一般在排位里面啊，排位里面大家没有在走管运营，基本上就是看到人就推，所以人掉得快的情况下，你在决赛圈是不太会有压力，基本上就是过点架好，然后枪把它把握住就可以了。在 RK 的话是这个样子，但比赛的话，基本上你在决赛圈还是会10几队的情况下呢，你就要去做好那个位置踩的地方，还有那个怎么讲，该去爆哪一队那些东西都要管控的很好，还有你推进的那个路线，全部都要规划好。因为在这种地方啊，基本上就是你往中间，你假如说你今天走到一个裸位上啊，然后你受到所有人的枪线，基本上你就没救。你只要受到任何一方，你基本上就没救了。做大混战的对，没有错。仅限于比赛啊，平常遇不太到。我现在打训练赛的时候，其实也常遇到这种圈。啊，我其实自己也不太会打，所以对打一多大便，对吧？ 这个还拉得起来，还不错。可是下面这组就比较尴尬，他们全部被压着打。好，是的，意外。但那组打了我是觉得他们的位置蛮舒服的，因为其他组还在激战的情况，他们就剩这2组在激战。他们其实现在拉完状态之后，应该要出枪先打上面这组。为什么要打上面这组呢？他们要先进行一个消化，因为下面那组是注定活不了，所以他们要先把上面那组的状态先消。他们只要消掉一点的话，他们跳下来的时候，他们再一步把它收掉就好。因为毕竟跳下来，他们不是他们也不是，他们也没有听见这个角色，所以他们一定会这样子。他们只需要一步把他们带走就行了。所以其实下面那组胜算是最大的。基本上这个石头这组是没救了。他们能活下来的话，就算是奇迹了。对，好，开始出枪。这个时候呢，他们侧面没枪先完蛋。那他们在下烟情况下，他们就可以推进，他们就有点围了。可是他们好像有把握住哦，枪法有把握住，所以他们应该是推得赢，我觉得。吓死我了！有点好恶心，没有到很恶心吧，就是只能打那一队啦，其他组的话防不住，因为他们下面有压力的情况下，他们搞不了其他人。没有到很恶心吧，就是各有利弊吧，只能说。
So we've already started the climb up. We were talking about it taking only one good game necessary to put yourself into the top 5. And if with Omit up to match day number 9, their best performance finish has been 3rd overall, which has happened twice on 2 different match days. So can we improve upon that? That's what I'm waiting to see.
You know,
I'm gonna
be interested to see what the numbers say when we get.
我还也很怕我说一说那一组
where some of these teams ended up on the KP. We saw Cold holding their spot for so long that they're definitely upset in the second place placement points, but where did they end up? Were they able to kind of be annoying and clear players out as people were starting to rotate in? We saw just how well they did against Forge in those final moments. So they definitely got some points on the board there, but was that a situation that was similar to what we saw with Made in Heaven when they had the northern side of that zone that we saw in World's Edge, and it was more about the placement than it was the KP.
很大，反正大家看着大饱眼福就行了。
Out of LCDF, still on their tear, running through people and kind of just killing as they went. Will we see some of those numbers in favor of Alliance as well? There was a lot that happened in that first Storm Point match, and the ending was not what I expected, Tiff. I'm not gonna lie.
Hey, I like those zones. I really do. They're some of the funnest ones. And I love the shouts, right? You think the top 3 teams of that match, Cold, Omit, Forge, they are all right next to each other on the leaderboard, moving into map number 4, sitting 6th through 8th. Cold with 26 points, and then you've got Forge with 15, so about 10 points separating them. But was the ending enough? Because we talk about the placements points. Obviously, it's 12th for first place, 9 for second, 7 for third. But you mentioned it. What did those eliminations look like? Because then it's like, well, LCDF, look, they were looking down the barrel of double digits yet again. Kind of crazy. When I checked in on Zidon earlier, I think he was running about a 5 or 6 KD. Early on in the first season of the split, like the first half, I think he was averaging, what, like 8 eliminations a game? Crazy.
I mean, not too shabby. Crazy. Not too shabby if you've got one of your players that's just popping off. And talk about the time to do it too. We've mentioned this a few times, but obviously last play day here of the regular season for these teams. So anyone who is looking to try and scrape a few more points here and there in whatever way they can, today is the day to do that. Every single kill will count here today, and we're seeing just how seriously some of these squads are taking that, because even yesterday we saw how slay heavy some of our teams are, deciding that that's where the majority of their success will be found. And we've seen it happen in previous play days in general, even from last weekend in NA, the likes of Complexity, a squad that, you know, doesn't even take home a win, but then they win the day because of that aggression, Tiff. So it's actually definitely a strategy that these teams can be using here.
It really is, and granted, now that we've moved on to the very back half of our series with only 2 matches to go, what is it going to look like? What kind of performances are we going to need for those teams that are outside the top 3? Or what do you need to do to unseat LCDF? Because all they've been doing is extending that point differential, making it really challenging for some of these squads to surpass them on the top of the leaderboard.
And it feels like it's because they want that land spot, right? LCDF was in a good spot in heading into today to be good for regional finals, but they weren't there yet for playoffs, and they want to solidify that. We're wondering about kills. We've got 11 for Omit with the win. That's a nice, solid win for Omit, but it's matched by 11 kills on behalf of Na'Vi down there at the bottom, Tiff.
Look, that's impressive, right? If only they could have stayed alive a little bit longer to get some of those placement points. And LCDF walk away with 8 Alliance, take down 2 full team squads, and get 6 eliminations on the day. So it's kind of spread out throughout the half. Cold pick up 5 of their own, and I can only imagine that for a mid-cold Forge, it's going to shoot them up just a little bit further in that overarching leaderboard, despite only getting 1 elimination for Forge. Let's jump on over to the back half to see what that 11th through 20th is going to look like. And TSM Phoenix walk away with 1 Made in Heaven after kind of a very tough rotation in to try and get some space. Fall early. Aurora looked a little bit lost south of Stormcatcher, trying to take a smart fight for them. Just kind of put them to a late entry on that engagement south of Stormcatcher. So that was really tough to see. And for Team Portugal, well, we saw them go out early to effect. And what will those last 2 games look like for them?
I mean, even taking a look at pest control, they were someone that when we saw the overall were struggling, and then they were able to take out Made in Heaven on that rough rotation, like you were saying. But now here's a look at the series results, where everything stands so far on the day, and you can see just how crucial the kills are for LCDF right now. 58 points overall, 11 points above Alliance, so keeping themselves in a nice, strong position here. But look at the kills in general. Everyone is trying to slay out in order to stay in top 3 for Cold is massive right now.
Yeah, that's going to be a really strong performance for Graceful and the crew. Alliance, they're getting closer to that first match day win, and honestly, 11 points with 2 games to go, that isn't going to be such that stronghold that you need. LCDF needs at least 1 more solid performance to really put a chokehold on the top of the leaderboard. Omit, though, we've talked about it, their best performance is being a 3rd on a match day. Can we best that? Can we get the points needed to unseat Alliance for 2nd, or maybe even double down and go for a 1st place? Even with Passion sitting in top 5, we talk about needing the points that they can get to make that top 8 for LAN, so you don't have to go into the regional finals in a position where you have to win match point, because all stakes are going to be at the highest next week. You don't want to lay it on the line. You do not want to leave it to chance. Anything could happen on match finals, and it gets too crazy for me.
Well, our teams only have 2 more matches on the day to do something big and solidify their spot in the competition. Time for another short break, so don't go anywhere. You're watching the Apex Legends Global Series.
玉环吧。OK， 我们选手还是要上点厕所嘛，是不是？你是不知道亚洲什么时候开始打？因为我 GS 每次出来的时候都有这种小什么小强打，然后我都看不懂他写什么。这是谁？这是长头发男生。M Bob， 然后什么？谁知道啊？那点越来越清晰了，兄弟们。M Bob。Which upgrade from ballistic triples the duration and spot bullet? Extra bullet 啦，是吗？哦，lasting bullet。我没有玩过那个弹道的行技人，说不太知道。谁知道啦？LCDF 啊？不是。 其实蛮有意思的。说实在，你说中间人这样至少不会冷场，这个设计其实蛮酷的。这右边怎么笑得这么的理解？
Who is going to be making it to regional finals next week and even on stapling their position inside that top 8 if you can do it. Also, welcome back, Zephyr. Got to hear the thoughts on the last match since you really were just kind of from the back watching.
Yeah, I've checked it out. I was sitting down in the basement getting my taste of the action, but ultimately at the end of the day, it was to no surprise, I think, that we see Omit come out on top of that one, especially with the remnants being that of Cold, right? And personally, you kind of gotta give the credit to Caustic where it's due there in its moments. Even when you're not doing the damage, it's still ticking through whether you like it or not. Granted, I do think we should start to talk about some of these other teams. I know the big take right now is regional finals and some of those who are looking to go to LAN, but as it currently is, the teams on the bottom are still on the bottom.
Yeah, you're not wrong. I'm looking at 202, Stay Healthy, TSM Phoenix, and they're currently sitting in 17th to 19th retrospectively. So a little tough, right? It is kind of challenging knowing that you are potentially facing relegation. You have to go through the qualifiers, run the gauntlet just to get back into Pro League after that. And let's be real, you really don't want to have to deal with that if you really can kind of not.
Yeah, ultimately for those teams, they need to shore up in one of these last 2 games to push past somewhere close to 11th or 10th place, or their day is done. For Cold and Infinite, respectively, who coming out of this were somewhere around that 19th to 20th place, they are still within that top 10, albeit Cold now a little bit higher due to their position, and of course Infinite slowly starting to fall off down there in 10th overall. Things are still better than those who need to surpass. So ultimately, it needs to be one of those 2 positions taken away by someone down below. I don't know who's gonna be, but it's gotta be one of them dropping what could potentially be Infinite or another if they at least want to avoid relegation, and god dare they try to find their way into regional finals.
Speaking of regional finals, and then we think of LAN, it's like all of the different legend compositions that we've been seeing. Noises was chatting about it. Let's go ahead and turn our tides to APAC North because the winning team comp that we witnessed was so different, right? Reject winning asserted their domination on the regional finals for APAC North, taking home 3 wins out of 4 maps on Wraith, Caustic, Mad Maggie.
Now this is something that gets aggressive and in your face. We've seen the Mad Maggie show a little bit of presence in the assault class and usually is usurped by the fact that Bangalore holds as much weight as she does. But the thing that stands out to me is the Wraith. This is something from the days of yore, the year 2, where we saw that super combo between the likes of Wraith and Caustic that reared its head many a times here, giving them double
右边那2只我完全可以解锁，可是20我真的是看到少之又少。我以前在打的时候，我也是在不得已的情况下我才出20。20配罗巴，那时候蛮强。
Because we have seen teams dabble into Wraith. She is not going to be, lo and behold, the Bangalore picks, the Bloodhound picks. She is definitely niche. And although DSG, you know, we've seen Designful play that over in North America, it has been popping up, albeit few and far between. Regardless, they asserted their domination regardless of what they have been locking into. But we did have the APAC South Regional Finals just this morning, and at least for me, it was Tom Young-Kung that came out on top, and well, they did it kind of with that traditional legend composition that we have been seeing. Bang Blood Caustic has been one of the favorite comps that we've witnessed throughout the journey of Season 20.
Right, and especially with Season 20 still kind of working its way into this sense of figuring it all out, the Caustic Bang composition in particular is starting to win or at least lead the lion's share of a race.
这是要把腐苗打到死，是不是？
Having the lack of clarity for so many of these other teams is making it
腐苗能做事吗？不是3只哎，说错2只哎，2只哎，小。群血血开打可以无视所有的烟哎。他开下去他是他就算有烟他是有腐苗。
It's kind of crazy because we think about it, because APAC South for me, the regional final started at 2 a.m. and I knew I had a really long day today, so I wasn't going to wake up at 2 a.m. and start it. But when I woke up at about 7:30 this morning, 5.5 hours in, we were sitting on, I believe, game 7 or game 8. It went all the way to 10 games, Zephyr. That's breaking records for APAC South. The entire community was showing out this morning. I saw a lot of favorites that are kind of, even Tom writes great articles out there, was in chat this morning. But you've always got to be a part of a little bit of history. But I don't even think that was the longest, Zephyr, right? Like APAC North, didn't we have a 13 game? It was 14?
13 or 14 right there. Yeah, last split goes in the entire distance. So, hey, Match Point can run its money up and dissuade, or at least delay for some of these teams when it comes to the time frames as a whole, and especially for people like Genome. That's quite a tall task, a tall order of games you've got to endure.
Yeah, see, that's why I've been kind of talking about, like, you don't want to wait until regional finals to make a play to get to land. If you find yourself outside the top 8, anything could happen. Whether you're going, we even saw some people doing a little bit of interesting things in APAC South with Wonton Dumpling already securing the top of the leaderboard and going straight to land on Legends to make sure that they outperformed them to take that overall lead over Split 1. But, you know, hey, if you at home are watching all of our pro games here and you're like, you know, I could do that. All right, well, let's see it. Because there's something called the Challenger Circuit, and the Split 1 Challenger Circuit does have registration open for all of those dates. Get it going, get your team locked and loaded. You know, Zephyr, let's put a team together, shall we?
Not a chance. I coach a collegiate team. Yeah, that's fine. Dia's an absolute monster. Throw Vicky in there and you've got a star-studded roster. But when it comes down to it, this is the second best of the best. These teams are just as good. And to put truth to the matter, the 8 teams that we are sending down today will be competing against these squads coming out of Challenger Circuit for them to potentially take a Pro League spot.
Look. You want to get in Pro League, you want to be like the teams that you're witnessing today, go send it, right? And maybe I will call upon Vicky. She did just tweet out, she got the 4K badge on Bloodhound, so you know what? I do need a roller player, and if I'm going to get one, it's going to be Vicky.
Ooh.
APAC.
My M&K, I'm so sad over here. I promise I can put up the numbers that count when you call upon me. I can hard decky my way through a match or two. Yes.
Yeah. All right, so Grim Reaper the second.
The North American.
The North American version of it. Regardless, will we get more Grim Reaper-like moments out of Hardeki in these final 2 matches? Aurora currently sitting at about 6th overall on the leaderboard, which is very unlike them, albeit still a good performance. So let's go ahead and go through. Omit your winners of match number 4. Aurora match 3. Made in Heaven and Alliance take those first 2 maps of the day. Will we get a repeat winner, or will we get some differentiating things as teams look to unseat LCDF off the top of the leaderboard, coming in with 58 points?
Oh, it's a tall order, but one that is still achievable by the likes of many. When we talk about the point spread between them and Passion UA, it is only a difference of roughly 19 points, I believe.
我看到这万塔姐。
Within the 2 games remaining, especially depending on LCDF, very possible.
为什么右上角会有2只帮家？他们有2只帮家作弊啊！这只有2只帮家啊！
The large majority of that being through eliminations, currently sitting on 37 elims. But enough talk about that, because it is time to start talking plane lines, where we're headed, a central zone, and the plane is going to start just in the south by Devastated Coast, going all the way up to North Pad.
Woo! So, arguably, relatively balanced here for most of our teams, especially as we talk about some of those rosters that need their time to get to the Northeast. But I'll tell you what, Tiff, I don't think it's a plane. I think it's a hammerhead shark.
You really? You think they just fly in, hammerhead shark, very Aquaman-like?
I think I can
其实我们现在就要来看那个
Whether or not you
看
return
我们
again
敌
will
出
be
十
another
是谁，
story.
黑科技嘛，我也不知道，
Fair game.
是
More
bug 啦。
noises today.
所以我觉得很好笑，你知道为什么这时候两只喷加罗尔？
Noises was a gem. Let's be
他想要
real.
双
And
重
as
下
we
咽
see
哦。
omit, your winners of last match make their way to a contest-free Zeus station. Immediately start turning their attention
手
to
烂就
things
这
that
种
are going to get them their evoke shields leveled up. But for a zone that we have yet to see. Cedo, did we get it? No, we got it all the way back in match 2. It pulled to the houses outside of Cedo near that Evo cache that Go Next is by.
All right, and that's where Go Next lost that game as Aurora climbed up to take away that victory. So, if there's a chance to do good and find your way back into the fray and deliver on a POI that you know and claim as home, this is your opportunity. And that to me, Tiff, is usually always the real test. When you've got the pole directly to you, that should be your game.
It should, and honestly, I'm very happy that the entire Ceto and even a little bit of that water in the front of Barometer is in, because we think back to North America yesterday, where a good bit of checkpoint was in, and everyone was reading it. Hey, we're going checkpoint. I think 90% of the lobby was sitting in checkpoint. The pool comes through straight down to Ceto, and well, the mass exodus occurs and chaos assumes. So as we look in, we got our friendly neighborhood pest control.
Oh. Far from friendly within neighborhoods, but definitely present all the same. We'll see if they're able to stay alive, similar to the, well, bugs they call their friends. For LCDF, they're on their rotation, or my apologies. It's kind of an odd one. Forge on their rotation. And what will be now Portugal, at least defending middle ground here, going to make sure that they're the ones that take away the Evo and head on their rotation.
I love that they've already hit it to blue, right? They're going to be one of the teams that got first feet on the ground for map number 5. So getting to blue as quickly as possible is going to be nice. You get the immediate notification. You're scanned by a nearby survey beacon, but you get information of where that scan occurred. And they're still trying to find out, where did 202 roam off in that trident? Well, they're kind of laying down here by this grav cannon. That information is going to immediately go on to them. They're on white.
What the
Here goes
fuck?
the EMP for Kashera. It's not going to be shot out, and they lose the rest of those whites. Aussie is going to be the only one able to maintain some of that. We throw up the cat wall, which, hey, we were talking about it early. Few and far between, but they're here. Postkill doesn't care. He's going to run right through it. Sure, I don't need vision.
And now, notably, this is something that is completely negated in terms of the buffs that we saw from previous seasons. So, not really holding much of its weight for Portugal, especially after damage like that.
只看到他既开大又追的，我操！他妈治要治这一组的实力耶。
Of the HQ, Miscam, gotta be really careful. Missiles on the other side, just barely.
Half those missiles
Holy
hit the front of the
shit!
wall, and that's okay because it did save Miscam just a little bit longer. Curious to see what's going on. If you're trying to pop a med kit, well, that's going to take about 8 seconds. And Q doesn't want to give you the time to be able to full heal. And now Team Portugal is trying very hard to push them back in. Kashera opens it up with the first knock on to Rakafaka, making it a 3v2 and about to go 3v1, but still cannot get the final touch on to 202.
Kind of a delay of action here. Will turn around and actually be shut out even before they are on that full wipe of 202. Got to turn tail and actually now defend against the likes of this later rotation from Vex. We know they start out here just towards the east. So finally in from what is their start. Evac. Portugal looking for the
感觉有机会可
We
以
just need one more bullet, but
被打掉了，
Kashera
没有
does go
死
down.
掉了。
Still not a full end on Team Portugal as Postkill will be the one to run into open water and to hopefully find some safety. Off screen, we lose out on Passion UA. And I don't want to say this, but sometimes when casters like to talk about a certain thing, specifically me saying Passion UA is way better on Stormpoint, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Sometimes the curse is real.
Something of a promise, some would say. One that needs to be broken here.
应该说
One
要
last
过
chance
完
to
是
reverse
什么意
this
思？
curse.
谁
You're
让过
welcome
完？
to whoever told me to fit. They told me to fit in more rock song lyrics in my cast, and you're welcome for that one. Good luck figuring it out, and hopefully.
If they want rock song lyrics, I can go literally all day.
我是
Do
听的
it.
motherfucker，
I can rock them all night long.
这听起来蛮像的。
Stay healthy though on the roof of Cito. Now, with this zone looking a little different and a lot of our teams getting that ring information early on, you're not going to see what you saw in NA last night. We are going to have the majority of our teams playing from Cito Station, looking for any area that they can make happen. Stay Healthy does get the roof, the upper area, and you can constantly climb up, put pressure. I even see teams where Mizuko is kind of sitting, try to take angles where you are relatively hidden, so you're not going to get that return damage. Forge, Infinite making their way, but with Aurora being the one that did win out on that zone we called earlier, the only one to pull Cito, can they run it back? You know, we've got Aftermath just ahead of them, but you know, Aurora likes the rocks, and I think they want to take hold of that.
那时候 TSM 有付他们薪水之类的。
They do have the time to delay, especially with most of that hillside being in play here. I do want to pull the point back to Stay Healthy though, just to kind of give everyone a fair update first before going into today. Avoid relegation, not quite in those regional finals, but ultimately currently in 18th overall. That kind of performance would currently put them into a position where they're going to have to compete against their Challenger Circuit friends. So this is their most important game yet, even if, well, Zone ain't quite there.
That's pretty gross. I actually like Aurora's position more though, because now you don't have to run through all the teams in Cito. You play off map scan, you see where everyone is. You're not going to have that zone 3 information. Look at the rotation, right? They just kind of hang down south of Millage and wrap around that choke. Now, granted, if you do it too early, you're going to have to contend with all the teams making their way out of Cito. But it looks like Na'Vi is catching wind of it, and they're like, you know, this is where we're going.
I'd be surprised if they actually knew here, but ultimately, it's the fact that they lose good positioning in the likes of Cito that forces them up the hill. And as a result, they're going to move continuously here. They don't quite know that they've got one heck of a position now. Down deep, Barometer's side here.
Oh no. Okay, look, are we gonna play from the building in Barometer and fight north? Because that's acceptable to me. Sometimes if you don't know where it's pulling, looking for a solid area that's not going to have you go out in that mid game where everyone goes from about those 18 squads to about 11. And then you would look at where Alliance is making their step towards. They're kind of mirroring Na'Vi in that rotation, but they actually have the info.
They're going to set themselves up within this building. Na'Vi just a little bit too deep here, setting themselves up for a cross take on Barometer as a whole, and also looking to see if they can get themselves up on that Evo. Notably, it does seem like Matafe was able to secure that first package pickup and will take advantage of the extra length from that bow check. 50 on the go, but again, Na'Vi is opting to go for the wide swing, potentially all the way round.
所以，好像他们选技能是都选右边的，我以为大家会选是左边那个。是啊，其实自大对完全蛮重要的，以比赛的时候其实自大蛮重要的存在。虽然说可能会变掉了。
You're going to end right back where you started, kind of by that gate in Jurassic.
那是按到是不是？没有，对不对
？They may not even end up where they want to be here. Vex coming through the full ult.
这颗不丢高抛吗？真的假的？感觉刚才那波高抛的话，他有机会，对不对？
It's tough though. None of those nades gonna connect, but Tyler's gotta stay alive here, and Babylon's has the wingman, and coupled with the beast of the hunt, it's gonna allow them to do so much damage. Despite all the damage going out, we have not seen a single knock come through. The shield being broken on the lifeline, knowing that's immediately going to be Matafe. But at the end of the time, that round 2 is closing, and Na'Vi just takes that full wrap. Not necessarily finalizing that push, but you know what that means. We saw Alliance mirror Na'Vi in their rotation, and with all the chaos and the noise that Vex has been making, we've burned through our ultimates, and now we have to face off potentially against Alliance.
This is really tough too in terms of cover. You're working with the bare minimum out here towards the edge. You've got a chunk of rocks that are going to be in, but it's going to be within a nook and cranny, and if it isn't capitalized now, it will be later. For Na'Vi, the rotation all the way back around. The longest winded exchange puts them right back in their place, but arguably now even worse. They're stuck on the eastern side here, forced to contest against 3 other rosters if they want to make their way forward.
Yeah, at least we're on triple purple here. I'm just kind of looking at what we have to offer. Kinda's got a Moby in pocket, not an evac. 1 bat, a couple shield cells here, and for Tyler, at least he has 4 bats. So if Kinda does run out, we can share that. But with Cold on your left for the gate and LCDF ahead of you, this is going to be tough. Should the zone have shifted, which it didn't, LCDF would have been holding a potential end game. But for now, we're going to have to worry about that cross through the gate and even then straight into the open water.
We talked about them earlier here, and now we look for their success. The Forge as a duo going in aggressively, dropping that Nox gas grenade will still inevitably be picked up from behind there. Made in heaven quickly.
我想我等下看完有角色的话，我们再开一个那个半睡直播，对，背景音乐播那种很 chill 的那种音乐，然后我要刷时速。所以请大家帮我挂着刷台，挂着刷时速一下，挂台刷时速。我话都讲不好，现在其实有点累。等下看完第6场，我应该就会睡觉了，好累啊。小弟很缺时速啊。
Babylon's though holding tight as Alliance swarms with a nice 3-1 cleanup, and look at our scoreboard here. They came in, was it near like a what? Around 11 points outside of LCDF, and as many teams as we can take down with us is going to get us closer to that. Aurora, though, they've made their way here, and another wingman for Hardeki.
Ooh. This time around, let's see if those shots sing out here. Maybe a little bit quicker, but ultimately, they've got to put up against what is now a weakened Alliance. Couple utility completely down and out, and Hardeki from the other side. It's the perfect setup.
Ooh, we lose out on impulse, but it's fine. It's called a lifeline res, and we're gonna get that. You immediately step in front of that to try and body block, and now you lose out on Hardeki. He's got to play around these knockdowns to go ahead and finish the last couple bits of Alliance off, but not before we get shot from elsewhere. It's gonna make a very tough engagement for Alliance. They get the reset, but time is of the essence to make it happen. Jumping ship back over to Omit, clearing out the other side of Millage towards Bean. Blast does have that knock on to Kirev, but so much chaos. All the visual clutter is going to make things difficult. Oh! Okay.
Might be difficult, but you'll slide right into the exchange there. Lufka with the wingman perfectly set up, and now turning to what might be the next 2v2. Has to play great coverage here to prevent this assault. Light finally back up in the 3v3, but ultimately it is going to be Bambino that drops first.
Is the wingman back on the ground, or are we just spawning a ton? Do you remember days when the wingman was on heavy ammo and it was on the ground? Go next, though, with swing here. They've already got light down, and now Kaishi, the last one, but from behind they fall.
我看一瞬间，我想让他说中文的，这是什么开始？我的哈。
To see another day. There is no way we get this reset, though, do we?
No, they do. That was all them.
What?
That was all them. Left with the wingman again. Like
MVP's
you said,
wingman. It's the wingman. It's the MVP of the day. It is.
It feels like it is coming. It's coming through in a way that has given these teams more to work with than you would expect. Ultimately, it ain't quite on the ground, but especially with Lifeline being more and more common, there's a reason why it's currently at the 7th highest damage total weapon in the game for a weapon that has bare neck half the time.
Okay, here we go again. LCDF begin the work, and shouts out from that Bangalore perk, and although Zidon does put down a ton of damage, Kiner is just hip firing, ADSing that L-Star, but it won't be enough. They will fall, and LVH only has 2 standing. It's not going to be enough time for them to hit a full reset. They do get some shield swaps in before Infinite makes their way over. Here comes the swing and the Havoc. We talk about it being the preferred AR throughout. And a little bit of that double AR meta joining alongside Hemlock. Here comes Navi right back to kind of where they started. They
手把还在秋海舔包，好白痴啊！
an immediate smoke for cover to try and stay healthy.
It's gonna be that evac that saves the day for Navi. I swear, you just gotta stop saying these names. That's it for stay healthy. So straight up out and dusted there over on the other side. Alliance now though working from that southern choke where they dominated against Vex and Aurora will be quick to clean up all these rosters who have no care in turning around whatsoever.
Every time I hear that drone fly by, I'm like, Kashera, where are you standing? Where are you standing? If we ever needed more free cam observers for the broadcast, I think Kashera could be qualified.
Oh, absolutely. For folks at home that don't know, it's the same concept. It's literally just, it is actually the drone itself. Now, we'll tune in though with Navi. It's been done and dicey with their rotation, but how are they going to navigate this end zone?
Okay, ready? Come to me and then walk in. Let's go.
Yep, let's go, scouting. I got cracked up.
Oh, have my shit.
Drowning. Watch out, keep the team.
Yeah, behind us. We have the same, baby.
Alright, we need the next scan for below. We need to also.
I need energy.
紧张，刺激。
Can we go right maybe? Let's rock and then in.
Yeah.
No. We have to.
为什么拿 V？
拿
V 感觉都是日本人的感觉，是我错觉。
Yeah, there's Steve on the left.
他说他在讲话怎么一个日本腔？
Can you smoke right? No, look left. Kill them. On me. So much damage.
Make damage to that. Listen.
Next swing, we need to kill them. Okay?
Yeah.
Next swing, we need to kill them. One guy got thirsted. Nice.
I'm fine.
And then we need to walk in with smoke.
Okay, let's go.
波推，可以。
Swing. Break it fast, nice.
Swing.
实在是12个 OK， 那么我是拿下来，但是有点尴尬的是侧面有一波枪线。 他们在没有烟的情况下，我是觉得用这个倒地盾好像有一点没有办法进行，好，他们死了。没有，位置太烂了。
Unlucky. At least they grabbed as much KP as possible for Navi before falling into the final three. It's Made in Heaven, Omit, and Alliance. And look at that scoreline. They have usurped LCDF for the top of the leaderboard. And now it's all about reuniting back with Hackis, who has found himself just a little bit separated.
他们要把欧米先处理掉，
Just a little bit of an
然后他们也要一直干扰那个不用欧米不用打，但是。 另外一组一定要，不然他们会过得痛，因为他们好像也比较早动，他们好像会比对面，不对，然后欧米尔也比他们更早动。
Going into Game 6, potentially taking it from LCDF here. For all three of these teams, though, their sights set upon land, their histories decided at the end of the day. This is a test currently, and we've got to see who might stand at the best of EMEA first.
I really do like the setup that Made in Heaven's working with the fences, and Omit is able to just keep continuously putting pressure on the double trident setup. They're gonna move it up just a little bit further. About 80 or so damage will occur. You jump back to the rocks, but you're setting your sights to move forward. Smoke, scan, and honestly, my man, the arm on that caustic, bro, that perk upgrade which allows you to essentially become the quarterback of an NFL team. Doesn't matter.
That boy throwing dumbbells like they're peanuts out here.
Something, but still has that Jenny for the next rotation. It's all about managing your cooldowns here and saving them for the time being. But look at Alliance. They're inching closer over towards Made in Heaven. And even Omit is only going to have the Trident come through. But here we see the Bengals. The Rolling Thunder's probably going to eat apart at Omit.
Meanwhile, the nades find it coming down from above here, and they will ring with just as much pressure and pain as the height as well. But in the return, though, Lufka, once again, the wingman in play, comes to save the day. A drop from behind as Alliance will lose out on one. This could be what sets Made Up in Heaven for their win.
Come on, like at this point in time, Made in Heaven, they get to play for the win, and Synetic cannot go down here. There were already trades on that first fight. The full coming in, and now just trying to navigate through this. A glass cannon in hands of Synetic. Arctic takes towards the top tax. Do not go down, you do, and now all go to Arctic to try and put this one for Made in
手把
Heaven. The Chow comes in, he grabs that.
啊，
but
差一
it's not
点
gonna。be enough. Alliance do it again.
From in between a fight down to a duo to the resets galore and the win that counts above all. Alliance come out on top, playing the fights against both Omit and Made in Heaven. That is something that goes beyond a guaranteed win.
Like, it's just nice, right? You got Hackis on the broadcast yesterday. Was it the broadcast buff because you returned to your match day to play today? And next thing you know, it's like, do we net ourselves our first match day win? But we only have one more to go after this, and you're gonna have to hold it on because LCDF, man, they're not gonna want that to let that go.
No, when it comes to the pressure they've been applying, it has been critical all day. A mass that is a weight that Alliance is continuing to build up the strength to lift out from on top of themselves. But with that game under their belt, 12 points from the win and the guarantee of the KP alongside it, you have to remember they were literally right there within that top 3 to potentially take that spot away. I would not be surprised if they're walking into now a dominant position. For Made in Heaven, though, in a minute, doesn't get much worse. They were also top 8 overall, and that's something that will allow them to at least host a robust set of points that lets them feel safe knowing that they're on top of the board for EMEA.
True. And you think back to it, because we've kind of been talking about two different things here. It's making it to regional finals, which is essentially the top 20 overall for the EMEA region. But they only have 8 LAN spots to move on to Split 1 playoffs. Alliance come into match day number 9, sitting in 9th place, outside of that top 8 where they want to make it. And they've been consistent throughout Split 1, but it has by no means been anywhere near dominant. They have not gotten a first, a second, or I think even a third. So taking a match day win for them to get that 25 points overall would really help solidify themselves in those LAN contention spots moving into regional finals, which, folks, if you're at home and you've got questions, yes, the winner of the regional finals do automatically secure that LAN spot, but the rest is left up to the points that you accrue between today and the regional finals.
So ultimately, for any one of our top 20, you have the chance to make it to LAN just by competing through our match point finals. But that does mean it's technically not 8 in a way. There are only 7 that work on forward from the points themselves. You could be watching someone like potentially Infinite, who have done remarkably in this last game, walk into a wonderful win on finals, and then some of those top rosters are going to be on their way home.
Hey, that's true. And really interesting to think of. But for match 5 results, let's go ahead and look at it. A dominating show out here from Alliance. 17 eliminations for a total of 29 points. We saw the climb accrue outside of the top, and now they have usurped it. The question is, by how much did they do it? Made in Heaven and Omit, though, still performing quite well, and we were talking about Navi being outside the top 10, needing a good showing on the last 2 games. Well, a double digits there for the game, not bad.
The crazy thing for Navi is they literally just need a handful of points here to, I think, literally put them in LAN contention. So ultimately, a top 4 working your way out of match 5 is a perfect result to work with here. As we look, though, at the second half, LCDF, Aurora, The Forge, Passion UA, huge names, huge factors that have been performing all day long, struggle in our penultimate iteration.
It's really tough. At this point, you're right. You know, maybe Passion UA was just better on World's Edge and not good on Storm Point. I'm trying to reverse it, okay? I'm trying to see what I can do here, because coming into match day number 9, Passion UA was sitting in 6th place. So they're inside that top 8, but when you have teams like Alliance, Made in Heaven that were in 8th and 9th, they're looking to kind of bounce over them, and you can only afford so much before you fall out.
It's a tough spot to be in. Something I did want to point out is the fact that Stay Healthy breaks into the top 10 there, which could guarantee them a spot away from relegation. But we'll pop on over to those KP, and it's to no surprise that Alliance, especially after some of their resurgence, has now taken away the top of the board, effect leading the pack. But LCDF is right there.
Wow. That's pretty crazy. Effect at the top with 20, 2 members of LCDF, actually all 3 members of Alliance and all 3 members of LCDF find themselves inside the top 10, and maybe it's the mid effect, maybe it's just Lufka and Light. Whatever it is, they have found themselves in a really solid day for them, because thinking about their performance, they came into this match day sitting in 16th place overall, about 22 or so points outside of the top 8. And as we look at the series results, well, you know, not only did they bounce over LCDF, they really took a good bit of the points differential there.
Yeah, this is gonna be hard for LCDF to fight their way back into potentially a leading win if that's what they want here. But I want to focus on some of the bottom half of our board here. A huge shout out to Cold and Infinite, holding on for dear life to those 19th and 20th positions, placing in the top 10 today. For LVH though, a huge drop. Team Portugal as well. Both of these rosters within our upper echelon of points won't quite be knocked out, but gives the opportunity for some of these lower end teams to potentially get the points that count, get that opportunity, watch their dreams come true, and avoid the true struggle, which I'll tell you what, I don't know if you all have seen Pro League qualifiers, but that is a demonic state of play. It is hard.
It is a gauntlet, to be said, the easiest way to go through it. It is a bloodbath gauntlet, true and true, but we only have one more game to determine who will be relegated, who's moving on to those regional finals. We're going to cut to a quick break, and when we come back, all those answers will be answered. Welcome back to the Apex Legends Global Series, where answers will be answered. No, just kidding. I literally chuckled at that, Zephyra, because why would we answer questions when you can answer answers? But we only have one more map to go. It's on Storm Point, and will Alliance get their first match day win historically through our day? They've taken 2 wins. Can they get another? Because a bonus point could be nice too, actually.
It's an answer that is waiting to be seen, and a question that we'll have for it at the end of the day. But I'll tell you what, 2 on the board is something nice to see, and it ultimately does leave up tiebreak available, right? Going into match 6, if Alliance, or not tiebreak, extra points available. If they come out of match 6 with that win, they are rewarded for their success, which when we're talking about overall point standings, that extra point can make the difference.
Yeah, we talked about it, right? They came into this match day in 9th place, 67 points. Made in Heaven is tied alongside Cybercats at 70. Passion UA sitting in 6th with 73. So within a 25-point match day win for them, potential for 26. Think about what that does. I know you said you're good at math, so I'll let you do quick math right there, but it's definitely north of 73.
At least coming out on top of that one, you will find themselves at 93, which currently, if the statistics around 89 points work out to be land qualification, that does put them above it. Even with a win on their belt, they are currently above it here. So for Alliance, coming out with a win on the day of might have just sent them to land. But granted, it is still one single game that separates them from potentially a spot, a future, a place to behold against the international titles.
Well, only time will tell. Can they get those points that are so desperately needed? We don't want it coming down to the line on those regional finals. But as our teams make their way, you can see Alliance just kind of navigating throughout the canon of Thunderwatch. They will be one of the first squads to hit the ground as we are finally moving that plane from north to south. And from there, we wait to see where we head.
Small peek of our zone there. Over, you can see in our top left mini box, as it will be working similar to what we saw last game, but ultimately opening up the presence of barometer and of course a little bit of that Jurassic area that we all know and love. The potential playthroughs here for Alliance, though, I don't think they worried. They got themselves into a position that was right there alongside the fray, one of the best positions that even you, Tiff, called out early on towards that house from a spot like this.
Yeah, they did absolutely great. I mean, that is the longest rotation from Lightning Rod. Anytime you have to go to those southern zones, you just really have to loot as quickly as possible. But you can see they've already got an Evo cache pinged for them. They'll have that 350 netted from that. They've already got about 55 more that they'll need to put themselves onto blue. So of no worry there, but setting their sights on that zone that is pulling to kind of favor where Passion UA is, and even Navi in Pylon. Team Portugal just has a quick cop and escape from Coastal Camp to make their way into that. But if we do pull to another potential for an open ending in the water, with teams are really going to have to rely on the Bangalore smokes to kind of stay in the clear.
Yeah, it's a tough one, but ultimately you do still get a lot of the spacing available in Barometer to kind of house up if you're one of those rosters that is playing around the caustic, but the time is ticking. You got to make your way over here. And for teams like TSM Phoenix, a different clock is currently ticking, currently in 18th overall. This is a roster that walked into today at the very bottom at 27th. Now, notably with 26 points, they only have to surpass roughly about that kind of 33 to 35 mark, but currently they're not there.
Oh no, Kyrie pushes down, holds the door, but not enough. As soon as you turn around to make a play, you get shot from the back, but it doesn't matter. We've got Revenant, we've got Lifeline, and the quick reset coming through, but it was scary for a moment.
It is tough, especially when you're down a single member there. Now on the reboot, Forge looks to potentially take advantage, and I don't think that white health is going to be completely full for Kyrie here, so just gotta be a little bit careful over on the edge. Jay Savage to be that entry frag, as the nades are going to give them a little extra time.
Ooh, I hear the beast of the hunt being popped, and well, now we're just looking as we enter. Time dwindling down, but reminder, you can typically extend that should you be able to get that perk later on in your perk tree. For now, scan comes through. Well, we've got our lines on, and now sometimes you gotta kick through the door, and but hey, you know what? Not all of these early fights have to be pretty. We just gotta make them happen.
It's been a struggle, though, thus far for the Forge, trying to work their way, and they do inevitably come through with the double knock drop. Frass from the outside, keeping the dream alive, but broken in terms of getting past the barrels on the door here. This caustic locking down these places so quickly. I mean, that's incredible. Working your way in, blocking with barrel, and then turning right round. A leap forward here now from above, and Fraz having to reload the swap.
My God, gets a shield core swap, albeit only about 5 HP on it. But going into that fight, I can say that I've done that many times, not making sure that your secondary weapon that you're going to switch to is reloaded, and that time will cost you. Now Forge will get to go on a relatively clean reset and kind of carry on their momentum. The change in time that it took for that engagement has allowed teams like LCDF, Made in Heaven, start to kind of inch their way closer to that southern zone.
It's tough here. TSM Phoenix, that's something that I'm still thinking about. Ultimately, needed to have an ultimate game here, right? Needed to have something excellent in their final game, potentially now, of the EMEA Split 1. And to be honest, walking away at what was 18th with only a couple of points there. They may pop into 17th, but I just don't think that's enough points. We'll let the standings work their way out towards the end here, but we might already be sending our next relegated team home.
LVH, they take down Tyler from Na'Vi. Now, granted, since Matafe does play Lifeline, which is going to be that support character, should we not be able to recover the banner, they can rely on crafting it. However, very tough to do so in ALGS. However, we did see Hardeki go on a tangent yesterday, not only crafting and trying to res once, but they were going for a second before they got cut down.
I don't know about you. I saw Infinite literally rise right in front of, or revive literally in front of 4 teams in survey camp earlier today. So, especially given this early, I think Na'Vi got time. Na'Vi got a lot of time.
They'll be fine. Gotta find a crafter first, and as they rotate out of zone, they're gonna be heading straight towards Cold, still making their way in. Otherwhere, we have Made in Heaven getting set up in Barometer with that second zone information. So I have to look for the teams that when round 1 starts to finish that close, right? We pop ring 2. Who are the teams that are going to have access to a ring console to get the third zone information and have a more accurate depiction of where they need to move towards?
It's a tough spot here, but ultimately, if you don't have it, south. Good guesses, you know? Find your way into the buildings or the bushes, or potentially what is the pineapple buildings just on the outside of Jurassic for Vexed. They take from zone directly into Pylon. This is where Cold was situated, just on the outskirts a moment ago, and even from the hillside. Come here. You've got to be more careful than that.
Well, good thing more lifelines appearing here for Mia. You drop your Q and you immediately start to get that reset going through, but as they are the only team inside of Pylon, the availability of the Evo cache is there. It'll just be some nice little top-ups before you have to go into that end game. For LVH, after taking down Tyler, they're moving forward, and look at that nice ring console that is so calling Vife's attention. At some point, they'll grab that.
Really good from LVH, sitting at 11th right now. Gonna keep everyone updated on these things. Ultimately, walking in today at 18th should be relatively safe, even for regional finals here.
Speaking of a team that will find themselves kind of safe, Omit, you know, starting that journey northward in points south on Storm Point. Well, we look at where that zone's going to be pulling.
Northwest.
Yeah,
as well.
Yeah, exactly. We like the upward trajectory when it comes to the point scoring, but for our zone that pulls yet again a little bit further south this time, very similar to what we've been witnessing for Storm Point here. Back to the water, and Infinite kind of holding that choke there. That's going to be one of the scariest positions in my eyes, because you have so many teams north of that area that are going to be looking for a place to get into Barometer if you're not already there.
Yeah, especially since this has the opportunity at least to pull back towards that beach end in our final moments, and that can be a good position to work your way in from. For Go Next, they want to clear out this building. It's getting a little too tight, a little too musty, a little too gassy in there for Tolkien. Breathed in a little too deep.
Hey, Fashion UA, find a KP. This is the start of what they need here for match number 6. And to be fair, you land in Barometer. You're on blue shields. I was worried about what that loot would look like. Yeah, we just are running an iron sight flatline. Okay, not my favorite, but to be fair, you really have to kind of go with what you can get. Let those eliminations come to you, and by that way, find your loot. Elsewhere, you've got Alliance on triple purple, Omit to the right, and Team Portugal holding Gravity Cannon.
Arguably just as tough as a spot to defend here, but can work its way out well, especially if you're able to contest the building. But granted, taken right now, they're starting to extend here. This is not a roster that ultimately needs the ton of points, but could potentially look for it. A Trident on the other side, though, says they're just going to look out towards the west, clean things up from behind. They should be okay.
They should. I'm keeping my eyes on Posty over there. Kind of just living, laughing, maybe. I don't know. There's a statement out there. Live, laugh, love. LCDF in the Trident, though, hitting a rotation towards Cedo.
I do actually like this ultimately, especially since we know building is contested and you get Team Portugal out there. It's a little bit easier to work your way in from the north, knowing that even if you get successful fights there, the resets that LCDF would find themselves in aren't actually that awesome of positions, and ultimately you're up against a team like Omit, suddenly building down, utility unavailable.
This is going to be tough. Yes. Immediately we get Tyler back in, we throw the evac tower down, but we have the ring at our back and we have to go towards Forge. I'm not sure what our medkit syringe capabilities look like. Will that be able to hold you down as you hit maybe a more western wrap towards LCDF and the Alliance? Because you could only stay here for so long in the ring, and with Phoenix kind of setting up those Nox traps all over the doors, it's going to be tough for them.
That's it. They've got to go for the extended rotate there, and they might, like you said, find themselves in a sense of action as they breach through the relatively open area that still currently exists just towards the north of our chokes there. For LVH, holding the outskirts of where Forge were once playing, they don't even bide their entire time, but they've actually successfully spotted out Cold here.
Subject over there.
Jumping back on board with LVH. Not necessarily
Gonna do
where
it.
they need to be for the Barrow. Here goes the scan, and well, it connects. We've got the information of Cold. Let's jump into a quick listen in with them.
Grip that team. Back out in. Back at John if you can. You can smoke left. I got it. You can smoke left. I'm smoking left. I think they're running right. I might still one right. Me. One guy. Yeah. I tagged 140 in the back.
That's 英文呢。
Yeah, check it right. Bang one. I'm in left. Yeah. What are we? Me. Where? Oh, me. You're close. We. Go. No. Magnetic team. Kill this team. New team. Just kill him. Okay. I'm summoned. Aping. Why? Swing left. Left. Nice. He's running back now. Bruh.
There was one word in particular that I think summed up that entire fight from LVH in those comms, and it was bruh.
Yeah, I do think it was surprising that they ultimately did extend that as long as, I mean, they just came from knowing Forger behind them. Ultimately, that third party was absolutely guaranteed, especially after zone closed, but that's hide nor hair for Alliance, losing out on effect, the namesake, the bullet, the demon. This is a struggle now as a duo that'll have to fight their way forward. I don't know if they've got any Moby, but for now, they need to win 3v2.
202 fall elsewhere, but I'm quite honestly impressed with Unlucky. Now, not necessarily new to competitive, but newer to Alliance as Yuki kind of left the fray, but Unlucky has really adapted to Alliance quite nicely. Now, they're not going to live here. Navi will take them out and get some well-needed KP for them. Now we just kind of... That's true. That's true, dang. Man, I was watching the stream when they were saying goodbye to Unlucky, and man, it was sad, but regardless, Navi's got some work to do today, and with LCDF falling, it opens the door on the leaderboard because it's Omit that is still up and at him.
There you go. We called it. If you work your way out from this southern side, Omit is just going to capitalize. The question is, now with utility down and Navi working their way in, this is a potential opportunity to capitalize. Granted, fighting your way through this, especially with some of the sight lines from the south, you've got to be uber careful with only 48 seconds to deliver.
Let's see how they approach it. Caustics make building fights so messy. Everyone's running it. Kind of does open the door, take down Blast, but we have to kind of reset out. And meanwhile, look at Light running, trying to form some kind of nature there. The evac tower goes down. We're delaying the inevitable. We do get knocked there. Turn back towards Forge here alongside Infinite. A little bit of chaos erupting around the nut, and Slayers from above. That hip fire of the G7 Scout isn't always pretty, but it works out here, and Infinite will fall.
Yeah, almost all of that picked up by Slayers in the end there. It's a huge success for the Forge. They move their way from one choke to another. Now 2 rosters under their belt, continuing to balloon that score and now send them into the top 10. This cross, though, we know is so difficult, especially out in the open, but the buildings themselves, they're just as contested.
Made in Heaven, though, they have an opportunity to break into the top 3 now that Omit has fallen. And, you know, I don't love the current positioning of where that zone is heading to. You've got a lot of teams to go through.
It's a tough spot here. Heaven on the outskirts will get the back end of this door closed. Meanwhile, Aurora, needing a spot to work with, have found good takes onto YQ there. Gas on the defense, but ultimately finally broken upon their shields. Made in Heaven from the outside makes this slightly difficult and prevents Aurora from pushing completely in. Instead, they're going to take some time with the lifeline.
I mean, they're chilling, right? You call in the supply package, you get more bats if you were ever running low, but it's Max Strafe picking up some other eliminations elsewhere. Exo Clan fall. This building, though, is so congested. You've got Made in Heaven, Team Portugal, even Aurora kind of on the roof. You look towards your right, you've got Go Next and Navi in a little bit of a layer cave. Aftermath holding the bridge, which is quite possibly going to be nice, right? You think about moving forward towards that bridge, it will be open. But for Made in Heaven, who have a journey ahead of them, let's jump into that listen in to listen.
This is inside. This fence that side and we're chilling.
Yeah, I think it's a team on the roof and then a team inside top floor.
Yeah, top floor and roof. What is our next play though? This rock is in.
The rock,
I think
yeah, the
we
rock.
down.
Yeah, we shut up angle up top and kill everything on them.
Left, there might be a rock on the left now.
Are they fighting above again?
Connect, you can scout from me. You can scout from me.
Wait, I'm scanning, wait.
One team dropped!
Yeah.
That's fine. Okay, chill, they might fuck me on the...
No,
Yep.
they're
They might
all
like
teams
intense on the
clever
star.
Yep.
Can I peek the heady? Can we peek the heady?
now. Which one?
Like stand? This heady, like on the stairs.
7 seconds on it. Snag. 3.
7.
Go now.
Good.
They're all in the room, Block the door, fence. Come back.
Full armors.
Yep, Michelle.
I don't know. I popped that fucking...
Just hold them, keep holding there.
Yeah, this fence it.
They're going on the other side, I think.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah. Play me.
Hey, Rocket, chill.
They're barreling here, on the corner.
Yeah, in the window, okay.
I'm bang ulting.
Yep, Tax, come back.
I'm coming.
Do you want to blood ult? I'm blood ulting, fuck it.
They're inside. Wait,
They're gonna come out here, they're coming.
Wait, shots to the right, boys.
Look for it. They're in.
Coming. Back it!
I'm chilling.
Yeah, go on.
Dead! Last one!
Last one.
Kill the last one, Arctic. All you. Nice.
Get through.
There's a soul on the bottom. Under you. He's armor stopping me.
And we keep on going. Team Portugal falls, Navi falls,
What
and now it's Arctic making their last stand for Made in Heaven. But look who has else arrived from the building. Aurora take the bridge, Vex ahead of them. Zephyr, this one's gonna be good.
Vexed here with the final moment to prove this is the game that should set themselves up to avoid relegation before today, 24th. Now with potentially just even this match alone on their belt, knowing they even now have numbers advantages against Aurora and Made in Heaven. With a win in Game 6, they could have saved it all.
They could have. But now, I keep my attention focused on the Grim Reaper himself, the embodiment of the true lifeline. Look, sometimes you gotta get a little crazy, right? You throw those down, you look for extra cover, and you want Made in Heaven. You want Vex to focus on anyone else other than you. We have to inch forward, and this peak that Funko has is kind of tough.
It's really aggressive here, but the extension out from the side from Aurora can be dicey. You've got to be careful, even as a duo. Just one pickup, and now with the return of Made in Heaven, it's not so easy anymore.
We really just gonna let this happen? Endgame? We talked about, you know, making these reses come through. Well, welcome back, Tax. Welcome back, Cinetic. We're into full form here, and now the numbers disadvantage is going to go towards Aurora, and we full send on to the duo. We're looking for easy KP and playing for second.
Let's see Made in Heaven here with a minor heal as Lemmy's Rolling Thunder will initially drop them out. For Tax and Arctic, though, as a duo. They'll hold on for dear life, even surviving one more position's all they want. And with Aurora going potentially down, X will win.
They do just that. They hold the rock. They section things off with the rolling thunder. And they play it patiently. And honestly, another team with another lifeline win.
It's a huge win for there, and the reset for Vaco is something that gives them their breath of life. But the positioning in general is something we should talk about. Coming out from the east there, contesting against so many rosters, we saw some of their deep dives out towards the central position.
如果可以的话，可以先移到我另外直播间。对，就是我需要帮忙挂时数，所以对帮忙一下吧。拜拜。